The India versus Pakistan game was a triumph for the sport of cricket and for sport in general. What a pleasure it was to see a packed house full of Indians and Pakistanis and even some Australians enjoying top-class sport in an atmosphere of good-humoured, good-natured rivalry. The only disappointing note from an Australian point of view was that Channel 9 didn't cover the game. They're only covering Australian games in the World Cup, and as a result it was only available on pay TV. This probably meant that somewhere around 1 million fewer people watched the game in Australia than otherwise would have been the case. Indeed, if you weren't in Adelaide, there would be a great chance that plenty of Australians didn't even know that the match was taking place, which is a great pity. And Sydneysiders, who woke up today and bought the city's biggest newspaper, would be none the wiser either. Here is the back pages of the Daily Telegraph, the sporting section. As you can see, it begins with rugby union and rugby league. And then when we get to cricket, initially it's all about the Aussie team. And there's just one page with one little article really about the big game involving India and Pakistan. And then we move on to a load of other sports. I think this is sad. This was one of the most watched sporting events of all time. And even if 1.2 billion, the figure being claimed, is a little bit fanciful, it was still an event that the mainstream Australian media should have embraced, just like the city of Adelaide embraced it. One person who did pay attention to the game was Dean Jones, and he sent out this tweet. "I'm off to Adelaide. For my Aussie friends, this game is 100 times bigger than Carlton Football Club versus Collingwood Football Club." Thanks, Dino. Only a Victorian could compare the rivalry of 1.6 billion Pakistanis and Indians with the footballing rivalry of two small Melbourne suburbs. So big was the game that the Washington Post of all publications, featured a detailed preview of it. But to my knowledge so far, the game didn't break into Pardon the Interruption, one of America's biggest sports shows, which memorably featured a review of the game in 2011 when India played Pakistan in the World Cup semi-final. I love the way he pronounces Virender Sehwag.
Virender Sehwag or something like that had 9 fours. Like that.
And Pakistan playing India in the Cricket World Cup semi-final was hopeless. Yeah. Because India is 5-0 in World Cup history against Pakistan.
4 quick points to finish. 1, of course, Pakistani fans shouldn't be too despondent. As far as the tournament itself goes, these preliminary games are essentially meaningless providing you beat the minnows, and so they should still progress with ease through to the quarterfinals. 2, what happened to the crowd? There were 53,000 people at the Adelaide Oval for a Big Bash game just a few weeks ago. This game sold out in 15 minutes, yet only 41,000 people turned up. So far, I haven't heard a convincing explanation from anyone, let alone the ICC, as to why this should be the case. Number 3, if you've got any doubts as to Sachin Tendulkar's enduring popularity, have a look at this tweet that he sent out. The picture shows a throng of people have gathered outside his place to celebrate, and as he said, "Don't know what I did." And finally, there was of course another game yesterday. Zimbabwe were beaten by South Africa, no surprises there, but the performance of the Zimbabweans was very good and confirmed their strong lead-up form. They beat Sri Lanka in a warm-up match and had New Zealand in a lot of trouble before rain finished that game off. So I think that Zimbabwe could definitely be a threat to some of the more established teams as the World Cup continues. And that was day 2 of the Cricket World Cup.